Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Marcus here. Today I want to talk about something that I think haunts a lot of us, and that's the passing of our parents. Some of you, may be dealing with this. Some of you may not have actually experienced this. I haven't experienced this until actually recently. As of April this year, my father finally passed away from ALS. So it's more commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease. And the thing is it was hard to watch him deteriorate, right? We spent the last, 2 years just watching him go, from this macho guy into a very fragile state. And it was extremely hard. It was extremely tough to watch. Again, since he was that macho guy. But, it took about a year, right? It took about a year before we really understood what was going on with my father. He thought he was always sick and he just couldn't get over the colds. And then, one day he actually went to a specialist and actually told him. He got results back. Said that he had ALS. And I remember that particular call he had given me on that day to tell me this. And, at the time I had been going so much with my marriage at the time as well. So to hear this news, to hear that my dad got diagnosed with ALS, it was hard. I got choked up. And that was actually one of the first times I actually experienced anxiety severely, to the point to where I felt like the walls were closing in, and I felt it was hard. I felt like I couldn't breathe, and I didn't know what to do. I think that was the hardest thing to hear, was my dad tell me that. And I went through all the stages where I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to tell my dad after he told me that, because my dad was always good. He would always tell me about, just asking about what's going on with my kids. And he was a good father. I mean, he was always in tune with what was going on, always checking up, and I always give advice when sometimes he didn't want advice. And, just to hear that, it was really hard. It was hard to hear him tell me that, especially with something like ALS, because I didn't know what ALS was. And so after, I got off the phone with him, again, the conversation didn't last long. My dad didn't really like to talk about stuff, right? Especially sad and depressing things. So it was hard to deal with that. And so when I got off the phone with him, I broke down. I didn't know what to think. And, I started Google searching ALS, and okay, what does that mean? I didn't know what it meant. You hear about the ice bucket challenge and stuff, and, it's more about, the challenge, and there's more to that. ALS is a very severe disease that's extremely scary. It's essentially being trapped in your body and, losing control of your muscles, right? You can't control anything. And it's extremely hard. And to watch your parent go through that, especially a parent that's always supported you, no matter, what kind of crazy things you've done, he's always supported you. And to actually see that, to actually understand that, that his time he was gonna eventually clock out. And so I searched. I wanted to know, how long did my father have? And it says as soon as they're diagnosed that they can have anywhere from 2 years to 5 years. In some rare cases, some people can live a lot longer than that. But like I said, my father had been battling, trying to figure out what was going on for a year at this point, and then to actually find out, so he was already a year into the process, and he was already starting to lose his voice. And so that was just hard in itself. Like, it got to the point to where I couldn't even call my father anymore, and everything had to be, done through Messenger, and that was the only way I could communicate with my father. And it got really hard, and it didn't really hit me, because after he told me, he actually came out to visit me and my family, like shortly after, I think like the fall. Like, he told me, I think it was in the middle of the summer, and then in the fall he actually came out to visit. That was actually his last trip, was to come visit me. And at that point he could barely talk. He could barely make out to what he was saying, and it was hard. So like I said, he came out, and it was hard to try to accept that, right? That was his fate. Like, my dad worked hard, and he achieved a lot in his life, and he had just actually gotten retirement, and he'd only been in retirement a couple of years at that point. And he was really young. He was in his early 60s, and to have something like this happen was, you don't think about that kind of stuff, about your parents leaving at such an early age, a young age. And so I spent 2 years, right? I had my other things going on in my life. I was trying to, raise kids and everything, and balance a job and a marriage, everything. So there's a bunch going on. And then my dad was just, he tried to pretend like there was nothing wrong. And I did all the research, and I was trying to find ways, to do experimental testing, and, he wasn't really about that. He was, I don't know, sometimes he was, I guess, too stubborn, but it was hard to watch. And then over the last about year and a half, my younger sister and I, we started going out and seeing him every couple months. And it really didn't hit home until, he was losing his voice, and he was losing weight and stuff like that, because he couldn't move as much. He would get winded and get extremely tired. And again, he got to the point where he couldn't talk at all. And I can remember the one time he lost a lot of weight, and it was shocking to see him lose that much weight. But then again, this was like, I visited him in spring, and then I came back out in the fall, and I thought he was small then, and then he had lost even more weight. He was almost down to like 100 pounds, and it was just hard. I couldn't even look at my father. It was rough to try to, understand what exactly, this disease was. Like, how could it affect my father? It's such a rare disease, and then to have it affect someone so close to you. And, there are many things I wanted to do with my father still. And my kids are still young. Like, they were like too young to really do a lot. Like, they were starting to get at that age where we could go do stuff, and the ALS just took them, and it was quick. Like, it took, after he found out the results, it took a couple months, and then you could really start seeing it was taking a toll on his body, and it was doing it really quickly. And so, like I said, I would go out and visit him every couple months, and every time I would see him, I would go out like every 3 months or so, and every time I would see him, then it would be getting worse and worse and worse. And then as of this year, earlier this year, very beginning of this year actually, I had gone out to see him, and I had visited him, and I just knew then that that would be the last time I would probably like see him like in his state, and he was doing bad then. And it's hard to try to help as much as you can when you have other obligations and other responsibilities. And he had a good support team around him. He had a lot of friends that were around him that were helping him through a lot of this stuff. And, it was just heartbreaking to not be able to stay there and do anything. And him being stubborn, he didn't want anybody to do anything for him. I mean, even up to the very last, the last time I had really seen him moving around, he didn't want help. He was always about just trying to make it work, if he could do it, he was going to do it. And I think that part of it was inspiring to know that, he was going to keep kicking, so. And then as of April this year, early April, I got that call, right? He went to the hospital and he seemed to be doing okay. He was going to recover. He was constantly getting sick and getting pneumonia because his body was so weak that he couldn't even fight it. And this was, he had been battling for months with pneumonia on and off, and I had got that call that it just had dramatically changed after only, I think it was about a month or two after I had seen him. And they were saying that, yeah, this is his last moments. And so I hopped on the next plane and I went there in the middle of the night and I saw him on, a respirator, and it was, I didn't know what to think. I mean, he was, incoherent. His heartbeat was extremely low. Like he was essentially being kept alive by the machines, and it was hard to see. I waited through that night. I slept maybe an hour after 48 hours or whatever it was. I don't really recall. It all just kind of blended together, and it was hard. And then not much longer, my younger sister had finally gotten there. She was trying to come up from Texas, so it was a lot harder for her to get there, and she finally came. And at that point, he ended up leaving us at that point. And the good thing was we were all able to say our goodbyes before he passed. It was traumatic, to say the least, to just see the life out of someone go. So nonetheless, it's been hard, to turn around and to bury my father, and to think that I live up to what he was as a father, and I try to do that day to day and do the best I can for my kids, like I know my father did. So nonetheless, I mean, it's been a journey, right? It's been better, right? For anybody that's out there that's have gone through losing a father, you just gotta, or a parent or a loved one, you just really have to keep moving forward, right? Especially if you have young ones, like I have children and stuff, so I have to maintain myself and keep myself pushing forward. And you just take it day by day. Everybody handles grieving different, and I know there's many different stages of grieving and all that stuff, but you have to take it the way you can take it, the way you can handle it. And you just gotta try to stay busy, try to keep busy in whatever you can, and then just know that they're in a better place, right? Like in my case, my father isn't suffering anymore. So that's one positive way to look at it. And to know that time heals everything, and especially something like this. So just keep pushing and know that a better days come, right? The days get a little bit better with every passing day. And then no matter what, as long as you keep looking forward, and you're grateful for what you've had, the memories you've had with that loved one, and that you continue to remember those memories and spread those memories with other people, and know that those people that you loved were great people. And so thank you guys, and I will see you guys on the next one.